Hello, welcome to Wednesday's ESPN FC Live. My name is Mark Donaldson, alongside the former Liverpool defender Stevie Nicol. Today we're talking Champions League, and we will continue to talk about Manchester United and what next for Erik ten Hag. But before we look back at yesterday's action in the Champions League, Man City winning, Arsenal winning, Celtic getting thumped. Stevie Nicol, your boys Liverpool in action against Bologna today. Confident?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's definitely a different Bologna from last season. They've lost their manager. They've lost two or three of the best players. So this is not the same Bologna of last year. And I fully expect Liverpool to carry on winning. Yes, they lost at home to Forest. I think that was just a bit of a blip. Not exactly fantastic against Wolves, but they won the game, and that's what it's all about. So I'm pretty confident. I'm really not worried about what's going to happen in this game. It should be, and I expect it to be, a comfortable victory.
If we're looking for Champions League favourites, right? Manchester City, Real Madrid, can we throw Arsenal and Liverpool in there as well?
No.
Not
favourites.
No, but among the favourites, Man City and Real Madrid are probably the two.
Well, how deep down do they go? I mean, are they sixth and seventh? Maybe. I mean, they're in the top 10. There's no question about that. I don't think.
Are they in the top 5?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, I don't believe so. No, I don't. Listen, Arsenal in the Champions League have not had the consistency that they've had in the Premier League, and Liverpool, pretty much you can say the same thing. You know, last year it was the Europa League, and they couldn't get over the line in that. And it's the same side. It's a new manager, so there's nothing really, certainly in Liverpool, that points towards winning the Champions League. And I think for Arsenal, do they have the experience to win the Champions League this year? I'm not so sure.
What about their game yesterday? I thought they were decent. First half, 2-0 up against Paris Saint-Germain. Got the early goals and looked pretty comfortable overall. Was it more Arsenal that impressed you yesterday, or PSG that disappointed you?
No, I think you've got to look at Arsenal and say this is the type of performance that we've been looking for from Arsenal in Europe. You know, they've been, performance-wise, I think they've been really inconsistent in Europe, whether it's home or away. And I thought at 2-0, although PSG were trying to get back in it in the second half, I didn't feel as though Arsenal were going to lose it. I certainly didn't think they were going to do what they did at the weekend against Leicester. And I was always confident they would see it out, and they pretty much did. They probably should have had another one. But this performance is the kind of performance that Arsenal have to strive to achieve every time they step on the field in the Champions League. And that's whether they're at home or away. I mean, you look at City and Liverpool, regardless of whether they're home or away, they go and try and play their game. It seems to me that Arsenal try and change it up depending on the situation, which some might say is smart. But you know what? If you really believe that you're good, then I think you go and give the opposition things to think about and make them change for you, not the other way around.
I've had a look at the betting, and of course it's Manchester City and Real Madrid that are the favourites. City just from Real Madrid. But the top 6 is made up of Arsenal at 9-1, Bayern Munich at 10s, then Liverpool and Barcelona at 12s. You spoke about Arsenal and maybe not having yet the experience for a Champions League deep run. But did we see a maturity last night in that Arsenal performance against PSG?
Yeah, I think you'd have to say we did. The problem is it's one mature performance from an awful lot of games over the last couple of seasons that they haven't been showing that maturity. Now, is this the game that kicks them on? Is this the game that makes them believe? Because I think a lot of it is, do the players actually believe in Europe that they are as good as they are? They certainly believe it in the Premier League. I just don't think they've got that conviction in the Champions League. But to the question, they showed it last night. They showed that conviction. They showed that maturity to see the game out and keeping a clean sheet. The performance, I mean, everything about it smelt Champions League. So, unfortunately, though, it's tough to get over the fact that it is one performance, albeit a very, very good one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's see what the coming games brings, and if they can replicate what they did last night, then absolutely, then they would then come into the realms of possible champions.
But if they keep performing like they did on match day 1 in Bergamo, where they laid an egg, so yeah, you're right. Feel free to get in touch with us using the comments. Producer Rob is keeping tabs on any of the questions that may be sent. And here's one about the structure and the layout of this Champions League group stage. That's a couple of games, or the league stage, should I say. That's a couple of games that we've had more today. How does this kind of compare? And does it prove that the kind of Super League is a bit of a bad idea when you've got such lopsided games as some of them have shown so far? That's a big sigh.
I honestly don't know how to answer that, because quite frankly, I've got no idea. I mean, before a ball was kicked, the experts told us that, 3 wins gets you through, or 3 wins and a draw might get you through. I mean, it's impossible to figure out. All right, I'll start again. It's impossible for me to figure out. Look, before a ball was kicked, I, along with a lot of others, figured out pretty early that, the better sides are going to go through anyway, because there's so many games. It's set out that they know that the better sides, if they have a bad start, then what they'll do is they'll play the best 11 and get enough points, and then we'll see what we've been seeing over the last few years in the Champions League. When teams are safe, they play the reserves. I mean, the format might have changed. The whole figuring it out might have changed. The one thing that's changed is we don't know what day of the week it is when you look at the table. So listen, go figure it out. The usual teams are going to be through anyway.
Yes.
At the end of the day, that's what's going to happen. And guess what? They wouldn't have set this out any other way. They ain't going to set this out and gamble that some of the better teams might not get through.
No, I mean, this is now the opposite of what it used to be when you played, where it was a straight knockout. And if you get drawn against a decent side, you've got 2 decent sides in the first round. One of them is going to go out. You've now got 8 games.
No safety net.
No, and that's the other thing. We could speak about Manchester City, but look, City put out a strong lineup and absolutely demolished Slovan Bratislava. That was like a Carabao Cup game. What I want to talk about. Well, exactly, but hey, their second team's probably
right.
Yep.
Right.
And
get the points, and then the last 3 games you might see the reserves. I mean, so guess what? Nothing's changed.
No, except 2 more games, more money, and more games for the players, which a lot of them don't really want. So City won 4-0. There's not even any talking points from that because it was so routine. No injuries. Rico Lewis looked really good in that one. I want to focus a minute on. Yes, sorry.
No, I think there's probably just one little thing to take from this game.
Which was?
Well, the last couple of games that City have had, the opposition, A, have been parked on the edge of the box, and B, have defended really, really well. Mm-hmm. I think the good thing for City in this game was that 4 different scorers, 4 goals away from home, and they were able to play some football. And yes, the opposition tried to sit tight, but they just weren't good enough to do it.
No.
So I think the fact that they got the 4 goals and they got to be able to play a little bit of football, and they just had a little bit more space in and around the opposition penalty box, would take them back to, not that they're not confident, but a more confident team going forward. Because when you're drawing blanks and things are tight, it does take away a wee bit of your confidence going forward. So I think the fact that they got the 4 goals and the way they got them as well will just boost them back up again if they needed boosting.
No, and they'll fancy their chances of scoring a few more against Fulham at home in the final game this weekend before the international break. So to the old Westfalen Stadion, the yellow wall, Signal Iduna Park yesterday. Borussia Dortmund against Celtic, and Owen Hargreaves pre-game in the UK was saying he fancies maybe Celtic to get something because of the way they're playing right now. 20 goals for, 0 against in Scotland, 6 goals at the weekend. But they weren't playing in Scotland last night. They were dining with the big boys, and they got smashed by 7 goals to 1. So put that into context. That's the 3rd time that a Brendan Rodgers Celtic team has conceded 7. Granted, against tough opponents, Barcelona, PSG, and now last season's finalists. They've also conceded 6 at Atletico Madrid. Celtic are in form right now. So is this on the manager who says he will not change his way of playing in Europe, but should he?
Well, if you're the opposition, you're delighted to listen to the manager telling you that they're going to just be open and they're going to go toe-to-toe, particularly if you're a team like Borussia Dortmund. I mean, the facts don't lie. When you've lost so many games by such a large number, it tells you that as good as you might be in your own domestic league, you have to change if you're going to play against the big boys and compete. And I think that's the key word. It was a word that Craig Burley used on the show, ESPN FC, and it was compete, and that's exactly the word. Nobody's expecting Celtic to go to Borussia Dortmund and win, but they're expecting them to compete, and that just didn't happen. And I guess you cannot hide from the fact that the way they were set up. I don't know whether it's because the manager was stubborn. I don't know whether it's because the manager thinks they're better than they are. But he has to have a reality check. Hopefully, this is a kick up the backside because of the way the Champions League is. They've got a lot more games. So I guess the question will be the next time they step out against a proper side, how they go about it. Because there's no question he got it horribly wrong in the way he set his team up. You got to compete at the very least. You got to keep tight at the very least, and then you can go from there. You just can't go all gun blazing from the first whistle and go in at half time getting beat 5-1. I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever. So he needs a reality check, and he needs to think about not just his players but the fans as well. I mean, imagine travelling all that way to watch that. I mean, that's disheartening.
Especially when Rangers went there 2 years ago with a weakened side that Celtic probably have right now on their way to the Europa League final and won by 4 goals to 2. So, like, I get the top sides don't really need to change the way they play if they're playing home and away. Your Man Cities, your Real Madrids. But even the best sometimes maybe don't go as cautious, don't go as kind of gung-ho and are a little bit more cautious. When you played all those European ties, when you came up against the better sides, was there ever any away matches that your Liverpool manager kind of maybe once or twice just said, okay, let's be a little bit more defensive here? Or were you the same as the top sides and that you played your way regardless?
No, 100% going away. We were cautious.
There you go.
And you know, part of the reason for that is that, you know, it's 2 games and you're either in or you're out. So you can't afford to gamble. And so you have to be smart. Listen, at home, of course, we played our normal game. But away from home, don't give anything away. You know, if we don't give anything away and we don't get anything, then you know what? That's fine. Because we'll win the game at home and then you're through. You know, so you have to do what's necessary to get through. I mean, or win the game, or certainly not lose the game. You know, if you're Celtic and you're going to Borussia Dortmund, I think you've got to be realistic and think, right, what do we do here so that we don't lose? And if we can get something on the counter, or if they take a step back, then we can move forward, you know. So, yeah, we absolutely, away from home, keep it tight, give nothing away, and then you go from there. And that's how you should be doing it. You know, listen, all Brendan Rodgers has to do is look at Arsenal. What did they do against Man City? Look how good Arsenal are. And what did they do against City? Okay, They were down to 10 men, but I can assure you, even with 11, they were cautious. They went open. They gave nothing away. If Arsenal can do it, why can't Celtic do it?
Final question on the Champions League. I'm going to take you back to May 1982. You were a young defender coming through the ranks at Liverpool. And over in Rotterdam, Aston Villa played Bayern Munich in the European Cup final, 1982, and Villa won. There's a repeat of that fixture today. It's for me, it's one of the it's a romantic fixture. It's one of the ties of the week. Bayern will fancy their chances. Harry Kane got a bit of stick for his performance from the German media against Leverkusen, but two really, really good English strikers in opposition today. What do you expect from this one at Villa Park?
I don't see how it's not going to be a really good game.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think there's any way Vincent Kompany is going to Villa and do anything other than try and play their game.
Mm-hmm.
And that means they're going to try and go forward. That means they're going to try and pass the ball out from the back. And I don't believe that Villa are going to do anything else other than squeeze them high up to begin with. And if they don't win it, then shuffle back in and get into a position where they're strong and then counter. I mean, I really do. I really think it's pretty straightforward how these two sides are going to go about it. I mean, I think it's as straightforward as I've just said. Bayern will come to play. Villa will try and squeeze them early and then get a good defensive position in which, when they turn the ball over, they can break from. But that to me means chances and hopefully goals. Mm. Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is not just a romantic tie, but I think this will be a really good game to watch.
Brilliant. Under the lights, a whole end in full voice. Looking forward to that one. And of course, full reaction to today's Champions League games and the European fixtures tomorrow from the Europa League and the Conference League on ESPN FC. Now, Manchester United and their toils and troubles. A lot has been said about this. I don't want to go over old ground, so I was looking for different angles how to approach this with you as far as why they are where they are right now. One of the things I don't think that's been asked or answered really in depth, I want to get your take on, is where Manchester United are right now, closer to the relegation zone than the top four, more down to Erik ten Hag or more down to the players? What do you reckon?
I think you've got to put most of it, or the majority, down to the manager. You know, the manager sets his team out. The manager creates the culture. The manager creates the way that you play, the patterns you play. He creates the platform, both defensively and attack-wise. So he has to have the majority of the blame. And the fact that a lot of the players they've signed clearly have been through his influence, the Dutch influence, in particular, the Ajax influence, and the fact that they've made all those signings and they are struggling, the majority of it has to go down to Ten Hag. Now, yes, players inevitably take blame on the field of play, but there's no question that the majority of it has to land at Ten Hag's door. You know, as I said, you can't hang your hat on what they're trying to do. You know, like an Aston Villa, for example, you know that they're going to sit tight and they're going to try and counter. I don't know what Manchester United do. Against the best teams, you could say they sit tight and counter, but then that's only because the opposition are making them do that. Against the weaker sides, certainly in the Premier League, they're unsure going forward. They don't have a goal scorer. They certainly don't have a proven goal scorer. I mean, Højlund's been out injured, but this is a guy who's learning his trade. Zirkzee doesn't look like a goal scorer to me. Marcus Rashford's kind of fallen off a cliff in terms of goal scoring. Bruno Fernandes, his goal scoring exploits have kind of disappeared. I mean, where do you hang your hat on in terms of the players? And you can't hang your hat on the manager, because not only is his team performing badly, but when you listen to him in press conferences or any time he talks, it makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. So if he's making no sense to us, I don't know whether he's making any sense to his players, because what you see on the field looks as though they're not quite sure what they're doing.
How much sense do you think he is speaking in this quote we made the decision from a clear review, what we have to improve and how we want to construct a squad, but we know it'll take some time. Is it just blah, 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 blah?
Yeah. Yeah. What, is this third year? 3 years he's been here? Come on. I mean, I'm not quite sure who... I'd love to know whether the people upstairs actually believe what he's saying. And they're talking about a review. Well, it may be, 6 Premier League games in? There is no change whatsoever to the Manchester United of today to the Manchester United of last season. So it's one thing to talk about the changes that you need. It's one thing to talk about what you need to do. But again, as the manager, it's on you. It's on you to make those changes and show that the changes that you're trying to make are coming to fruition. And you absolutely cannot say anything at all other than it's the same performances. I won't use any derogatory words. It's the same performances this year as we got for the whole of last season. So nothing's changed. So it's all words. Doesn't mean anything.
Here's a quote from earlier today that you gave to our colleagues in England at Sky Sports. I've proven in my career that always I will win. The last 6 years, I have 8 trophies. Now, I spoke with Shaka at the weekend, and it's been discussed a lot on ESPN FC. It's probably now a case of when and not if he leaves Old Trafford. If that's done sooner rather than later, can the new person in charge get top 4 with these players?
Can you say that again? You froze there for a second.
So when I spoke with Shaka at the weekend, and you guys on ESPN FC have discussed it as well, we've kind of all agreed, and you did as well on FC, that it's more a case of when rather than if Ten Hag leaves. So if they get someone in sooner rather than later, can that someone still get a top 4 spot this season with the players that they're going to have?
No, because they're not good enough.
Okay.
I mean, we've just been talking about going forward. Where's the goals coming from? To win games, you need to score goals. And they're having a problem. I mean, one goal at Old Trafford all season, 5 goals in 6 games. I mean, that's top 4's like climbing Everest, to be fair, when you're talking about these sort of stats. And defensively, they're not particularly great either. They can't defend in the middle of the park, and they can't create chances from the middle of the park either. So you've got a side that can't score goals, don't really create too much, and so whenever they do, they're not taking them, and there's not that many of them, so it makes it twice as hard. I mean, whoever takes over is going to have to do what Man United are going to have to do is do what Liverpool did. When Klopp took over, Liverpool, I think, finished 7th last season before Klopp. Pretty much where Man United are. And it took time, but the biggest thing, not just the fact that Klopp's a great manager, the biggest thing was the turnover in players. They steadily and slowly but surely had a huge turnover of players. And then it all came together. And that's the model that Manchester United have to follow. Good owners, people in charge that know what they're doing. More importantly, probably as much as anything, well, there's 2 things: the manager and the recruitment. And if you get those things right, then you have a chance. So Manchester United right now need another manager. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, a guy losing his job, but it's just a fact of life that when you don't do a good job, particularly at a place like Manchester United, then unfortunately you have to move out the chair, and then somebody has to come in. But it has to be somebody who has a strong personality, who's powerful, who will create a culture, bit like what Klopp did, certainly what Fergie did when he came. And then you have to get the recruitment right. So Manchester United are miles away. I don't care who comes in right now. With this group of players, you're not getting anywhere near top 4. You need, a good manager, but you need to move players on.
Okay, we're going to wrap up the Man United chat by talking about the players. We're going to play a simple game, keep or get rid. It's a lot easier for us to do this than it is for Manchester United with some of the players that they've got and the contracts that they are on. So the first one to begin with, are you keeping Marcus Rashford if it was as easy to do, or are you getting rid of Marcus Rashford?
No, I think it's time he moved on. He's been far from his best for too long. The money, the wages he's on is incredible. So if you got rid of him because he's not performing on the field and you get rid of his wages as well, that means that you can go and get somebody who you can rely on. So I'm afraid Marcus Rashford would be a move on.
Anthony.
Yeah, not happening. At no stage since he came to Old Trafford has he looked like a Manchester United player or a Premier League player. So yeah, that's straightforward.
This next one's an interesting one. Bruno Fernandes.
I think you keep Bruno Fernandes. I think if there are, the Bruno Fernandes that plays for Portugal is what we want to see with Manchester United. But with Portugal, he's surrounded by really great players. And you can see that he can play with really great players. So Fernandes, I would keep.
What about the goalie, Onana?
Yeah, I would keep Onana. Yeah, I don't think he's I don't think he's world class, but I think he's a very good goalkeeper. He's got great feet. He does make the odd fantastic save, but he can make a mistake. But I think there are bigger fish to fry at United. I would keep Onana.
Okay, so you've got rid of two. You're keeping two. The next one is probably going to go. Casemiro?
Yeah, I mean, fantastic player in his prime.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he doesn't have the legs to do the job that he needs to in the Premier League. Too many players can get past him and he can't recover. So yeah, Casemiro, along with the wages again, similar to Rashford, a lot of money and wages would make it a lot easier to bring in somebody who can make a difference. So yeah, Casemiro, unfortunately, at this stage of his career, would have to move on.
Okay, that's 3-2 now in favour of getting rid compared to keeping. We've got two left. And the second last one, the penultimate one, is Mason Mount. A lot was expected when he joined from Chelsea, but he either hasn't lived up to that or he hasn't featured because of injuries or other things. What are you doing with Mason Mount?
Yeah, I know he's had his injuries, but there is nothing to suggest that you keep him. That would listen at Chelsea. At Chelsea, he was an important player, but then that was a Chelsea side that was still struggling a little bit.
Are you on the fence here a little bit?
Well, I think there's a player in there.
There is.
So I think you move him on, but I think he's probably one of the last ones to move on. You can't just get rid of everybody straight away. So,
no, I know.
So I would be on the fence with him. I would keep him and see what would happen with a settled team. Him and a settled team, I think would suit him better. Okay. I'm on the fence with him quite honestly, but I think ultimately I would move him on though.
Yeah, well, just for the sake of the narrative, we'll stick him in the keep for now to make it 3-3. So we've got one left. Okay, Harry Maguire.
Yeah, he needs to move on. Yeah, he can't. There's no recovery. He cannot recover. And when he's played, he's made some mistakes. And that doesn't get you in the top four. So, yeah, I'm afraid Harry Maguire needs to move on.
A lot of issues at Manchester United. I'm sure ESPN FC will be on top of them, as always, every night on ESPN+. Enjoy the Champions League football today, boys and girls. We'll be back with ESPN FC Live on Friday at 12 Eastern. Bye for now.